Propellerhead Reason has great control of each individual track and how they are connected between the sequencer, rack and mixer. Let's go through the individual track features in the sequencer. This video is part of my quick tutorial series on Propellerhead Reason. There's a lot you can do with your individual tracks in Reason, but it differs depending on what type of track you are controlling. That's why I have created a MIDI track here, controlling an instrument, and an audio track here. First, for any type of track in your sequencer, you can always drag it around by left-clicking on the very left part of the track in your sequencer and just holding your mouse and dragging it to wherever you want to place it. You can always see what track you have selected in your sequencer by this little grey arrow here, as well as the grey marker on the very left of the track. You can also minimize the height of any track in the sequencer by clicking on this little down arrow to the very left of every track, like this. And then click it again to go back to full height. Then for all tracks that control audio in any way, which are basically all tracks except special tracks like the transport track here, you have a mute button and a solo button. I will demonstrate this by playing this little short loop I have created and then using the mute and solo button on the dry track. Take a listen. So let's play the full loop first. Now I am going to mute the drive track, and now I am going to solo the drive track. Next is the record enable parameter automation, and this basically means that you can record automation on the track you have selected. As you can see, it is automatically on for each track you select. However, if you go up here and select manual record mode, you will have to manually select the record parameter automation button whenever you want to record any automation. And the same goes for the next button, which is the record enable button. By default, it is automatically on for each track you select in your sequencer, but if you use the manual record mode, you have to manually select the track you are going to record on. Most often I leave the automatic mode on, which means that whenever I select a track, both the parameter automation and the record mode is enabled. Next on the individual tracks are the names for the lanes. So by default you only have one lane per track, which is called lane 1, but you can rename it to anything you want, and you can also create new lanes by either right-clicking and choosing new node lane, or using this button up here. You can think of lanes like the sub-tracks for the individual tracks. So, for example, you can use one lane to add your kick drum to, and another one for the snare, and so on. Below the name for each sub-track or lane, you have this little line here, and it says Select Groove. This is a unique feature in Reason that I personally love. Let's first define what groove is. Groove is that human character that adds the soul to your music, the minor imperfections of timing and rhythm that makes a track really sound organic and alive. Imagine a band playing a song. All the performers in the band will have a slightly different timing and add to the character and groove of the song. Most often it is the drums that sets the groove of the song, because drums and percussion are the foundation of rhythm and timing in music. Sometimes the drums are rushing, meaning they are slightly before the beat, and other times they are dragging, which means they are slightly behind the beat. And it can switch in the middle of the song. These imperfections of timing is what creates the groove. So what can you do when you have a bunch of MIDI tracks that all have perfect timing? Well, that is when you can use this feature on any individual track which says Select Groove. It is enabled by default but not connected to any channel. You can choose any of these bunch of channels here, and then it is connected to the Regroove mixer down here. The Regroove mixer is kind of a hidden gem in Propellerhead Reason. I will show you this feature more in depth in another video, but basically you use it to select different grooves on specific presets. Like this one here is called A1. Then you can adjust the groove as you wish, and here comes the kicker. You go to any of the subtracks or lanes in your sequencer and then assign it to follow any of the specific groove presets in the Regroove mixer. For example, A1, which I just showed you. This feature is amazing because it can add that soulful and human character to any music you produce. After the groove selector, you have a mute button for each individual note lane or subtrack. So you can actually use it to just mute the bass drum from your drum kit and let all other drums play. And finally, you have this little X button on each individual note lane, which is for deleting that specific note lane. If I click it, I will get this warning message, because if I deleted note lane, all data will be deleted with it. I click continue, and the note lane is gone. Now let's take a look at the audio tracks in your sequencer. You can always recognize an audio track by this little waveform overlaying it. Audio tracks share some of the features of the MIDI tracks with a couple of differences. For example, here you have a little tuner button which enables the tuner mode, so you can actually tune your guitar by using this button. Let me demonstrate by turning the tuner on and humming a note. Ah! Sorry about that. You can also choose what input you use on your audio interface. Then you have this big level meter in the middle, and here you also have a monitor button, so you can actually hear the audio while recording. This little button here stands for Clip Safe, and it is only available if you own the Propellerhead Balance audio interface like I do. So you can ignore that if you don't. If you right-click on any track in your sequencer, you can also switch the color of the track by choosing Track Color and using this color palette here. Another useful feature on instrument tracks is if you right-click and then choose Browse Patches, which opens up the browser where you can choose another patch for your track. If you have both the sequencer and rack open at the same time by clicking on both F6 and F7, you can actually go to any specific device in your rack by just clicking on the individual track in the sequencer, like this. It even blinks to show you where it is in the rack. Alright, now you have learned the main functions of the individual tracks in the sequencer, both MIDI tracks and audio tracks. You are already on your way to become a Reason expert. Just make sure to practice the individual track features and controls yourself to make the knowledge really sink in. My name is Mike, helping you explore the track features in Reason, because you rock, my friends. My name is Mike, and I share my story and journey as a music composer and sound designer to inspire creative people like you. So click that subscribe button to gain music superpowers.